I'm Brett Hohenberger. I'm from Argyle, Texas, and I'm a single father of two little boys.
And this is one of our clients who we helped rescue his children. And we wanted to talk about the parental alienation and the problem, that is going on, especially in Texas. It seems to be, they say everything's big in Texas. The problem seems to be pretty big in Texas, too.
Absolutely, it is.
Now, when your boys were kidnapped, how long were they gone? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, in total, they were missing for 315 days before we were reunified. They, sorry, I reported to law enforcement immediately upon them being taken. And for 7 months, I was told it was just a civil matter, that they weren't considered missing, that it wasn't against the law. I hired, multiple attorneys, family attorneys through the process, and I had every civil piece of paper that you could possibly have to have custody of the children, and yet I could get no one to enforce it. And because I didn't know her location at the time, it became very difficult and actually impossible to have possession of the children. And then that's where you came in.
Well, how did you get led to Global Pursuit?
I got led to you through another parent, and I had seen a newscast about his boys being kidnapped to Mexico for 14 months by the mother. And I'll tell you, after I found that newscast, I probably watched that 100 times the first night I found it, because it was the first time that I found someone else that was in my position and are relatively, close to, and they were able to find the children and reunite with them. And so that was like an image of hope for me, if you will, to be able to find that. And later on, that father, he reached out to me, and he offered to introduce me to you, and that's how I got connected with you originally.
Well, that was Stephen James, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Stephen James.
So tell us about your ex and how this all came about.
Initially, I was given custody of the children, and she had supervised visitation, and she didn't like the ruling that the judge gave. So instead of showing up to court, she just took the kids and ran. And so it just became a long fiasco and a very expensive lesson to learn the ropes and to understand the difference between civil and criminal, and the different aspects. As you know, there's so many different elements involved when someone's in the situation, that it was just very frustrating to go through that experience. And I consider myself very blessed to have met you and everyone at GPI, and to have the opportunity to get you guys to help me find my kids. It was a miracle, and nothing short of it, that I got them home.
How long did it take from the time you hired us?
3 weeks, not even. And a week of that was because we were fighting with the civil courts in the state that we located the kids in, Arkansas. Because my order was from Texas, there's a process. It's the UCCJEA, which is an act adopted by all 50 states that gives states home state jurisdiction under certain circumstances. It allows states to exercise emergency jurisdiction, and it also lays out a plan for how to enforce orders from another state. And so 5 days of that process was waiting for the courts to issue an order in Arkansas. And and my ex had felony warrants at the time, but they were in-state only. And so the DA here would not sign off an extradition. Arkansas couldn't arrest her, so the only option I had was to pay more money in the family court.
Well, I'm glad we got him back for you. I'm very glad. What would you summarize the? I mean, it's really difficult to put it into a summary, but I mean, the problem with parental alienation. What do you feel is one of the main problems that exists, and in being able to correct it, or the reason that it's not working? The,
Well, I think the biggest problem is, and I say this a lot with advocates with me here in Texas. There's really very little difference between whether one parent is denying visitation, which is the first step to alienation generally. There's really no difference in that versus what I went through, where the kids were taken and missing and kidnapping. The only real difference is, that you may know where the child's physical location is and that they're safe, but you have no contact with them, no access with them, and for a long period of time, like what I went through for a year, that can have detrimental effects to a child. And so when you get these custody orders, you have this false sense of hope, and I had this naive notion that these orders carried the weight of justice and law behind. And unfortunately, I had to learn a valuable lesson that these orders really, they only apply to people that are willing to comply with them. If you just flat out don't show up and don't answer, short of civil contempt, they're not going to arrest you. There's nothing going to be done. And so parents go unpunished for this act of child abuse, and then the cycle just continues over and over again. I have no doubt, had we not intervened and rescued my kids, to this day, they would have still never made contact with me because of her. And they were young. So it's very important that this act, this criminal act that's being committed by a lot of people in Texas and around the country is pursued properly by the judicial system. These parents are looking to law enforcement and to judges to protect their children in these instances. And it's been my experience time and time again, as I know you're aware, that they just refuse to do that. The justice system turns its back rather, and covers its eyes to these children. I pled, with officials to intervene and help me, and got very little assistance, very little.
and kidnapping, parental abduction, parental kidnapping, parental alienation. It's basically all boils down to the same thing. It's one parent taking the children from the other parent.
Right, or pitting them against them, and through many different types of means. There's numerous professionals on the subject.
There's the laws are on the books that,
correct.
in order to get the children back, they just don't follow the laws, right?
Correct. It's illegal in all 50 states, and in 25 states right now. They have a specific statute outlawing the interference with court-ordered visitation. Now, in Texas, that law is a state jail felony, and it's known as interference with child custody here. Every state has a different definition. Some states it's found in the kidnapping chapters. I've actually read and studied all 50 states' laws on this specifically. Just to get an idea of how other states handle and view this.